Good afternoon, everybody. And thank you ever so much for coming on this. Who would have thought we would have a gorgeous March day with the sun out and it's pretty balmy. So thank you all for coming. We really, really appreciate it. I would first of all like to acknowledge some of our funders and partners for this project, which we fondly call 231. The United States Department of Agriculture and Rural Development, the New Hampshire Community Development Finance Authority, Northern Borders, Jane's Trust, the Mascoma Foundation, the Couch Family Foundation, LaValley's Building Supply, Casella Waste Management, BioCell, and many of our private donors. And we are very fortunate to have a few of our partners here today. And first of all, I'd like to introduce you to Eric Law and Andrea Evanston Allen. And they are with the U.S. Department of Agriculture and Rural Development. And they're right over there. Yes.
Frontlining.
Yes. So that's yes. Eric and Andrea is over there. Okay. Thank you. The New Hampshire Community Development Finance Authority, George Hutton, is right here. He has his jacket on. And I'd like to acknowledge the City of Claremont and all of its departments for the permits to development, to inspection, and all the collaborative and support they've given us. We remain grateful to the City of Claremont for applying for the Community Development Block Grant for $500,000 for this project and for their ongoing grants and management. Joining us today from the City of Claremont is Mayor Dale Gerard. Mike McCrory isn't here, okay. And the PR coordinator, Nancy Mayer, right there. And we would like to also recognize Nancy Merrill, who wasn't able to join us today. And thank you all very much. We would also like to acknowledge the Chamber. Elise Crossman and Alex Herding helped us with this whole groundbreaking. So thank you, Elise. And the shovels, too. And we would like to acknowledge Frank Barrett Jr., fondly known as Jay, as our architect. George Chait, the clerk of the works. DEW Construction. Taylor Woodward. The president, Jim Kimball. Okay, sorry. Project manager, Jim Maloney. Okay, he's over there. Who's the project supervisor? Kelly Murphy, who is our stellar project coordinator, and Deb Mosden. And also, I'd like to recognize the board and the staff. Could the board and the staff kind of just wave so people know? Okay, and thank you for coming. Jay, would you say a few words about the history of this project? Please.
Good afternoon, and thank you all for being here. It turned out to be a lovely day for such a monumentous occasion. Deb asked me a week or so ago if I'd be glad to give a few remarks, and I said I would. And thinking about it, there are several words that sort of come to my mind to describe this project. One of which is evolution, and I'll get to that in a minute. Another one is challenges, and there's probably a third word, and that is persistence, because this has been going on for a while now. I remember clearly working in my office, which was then in White River Junction, in June of 18, mid-June, and I got a very nice phone call from this very nice spoken person Deb Mosden, and she introduced herself and she asked if I would be glad to look at this building, which was being offered to the organization. And the Jeff Barrett, no relation, had recommended that maybe an architect take a look at this free building. So I was doing a lot of work in Claremont here at the time, and I said I'd be delighted to. So it was in mid-June, and I'm sorry I haven't had a chance to pin that down a little bit more, but I can. And early afternoon, it was a gorgeous June day, and Deb and I met on site, and we toured through this building. And I was quite impressed with the building and thinking, you know, a free building, that really appeals to an old New England Yankee. And then things sort of started moving along from there. And I told Deb, she wanted to know how much my services would be. And I said, well, we're sort of not really defined as to what we're doing here, but I said, don't worry about it. I respect what the agency does, appreciate what the agency does. And I said, I'm a strong believer that professional people need to give back to the communities. Those of us who have good lives and make good livings and whatever, it's important that we give back. And I'm a firm believer in that. So by August, we were sort of looking at how to maybe get a stair in the back of the existing garage so that we could make better use of the second floor and a few other alterations. And it was apparent that that was going to be throwing a lot of money and not necessarily getting us where we needed to go. So that fall of 18, in October, we spent an afternoon, it was a fun afternoon from my perspective, looking at maybe other sites because it was clear the agency needed better quarters, bigger, better positioned, etc. And so we looked at about 5 different buildings. And that was, again, fun from an architect standpoint, and I'm a historian. And so seeing these old buildings, but all of them were going to be budget busters or just didn't really fit the need. So by December, we came back to that this was really the best that we had. And it was a good property, but the only way to make it work was to take the back barn, now a garage, and the connecting L off and put on an addition. You know, either you go, you know, and spend your money. And at that point, you know, okay, is it maybe $750,000, $650, somewhere along in there? And by December, things had settled down to, again, an addition, common sense, down, you know, basic 2-story addition. And we focused on that. In January, the Claremont Planning Board was very good to us, and the project continued to gain some momentum. It got to the point where additional funders were coming on board, and it looked like we might actually have something. We put it out for bid the first time, and unfortunately, that did not work all that well. That was in just at the beginning of the COVID epidemic. And then in March, April of 20. And so we realized we needed to do it again. And then finally, this fall, pulled everything together one last time and put it out for competitive bid. And things went much better. Unfortunately, the timing was just horrible. I mean, I'm the son of an architect. I've been doing this stuff now for 50 odd years, and I've never seen a construction market in such turmoil as what we experienced. Labor shortages, material shortages, volatility in prices, etc. Horrible time to try to bid a project, but we did. And unfortunately, it was over budget, which didn't surprise me, but that's, you know, easy for me to say. So the word persistence also comes to mind. I've never seen such an amount of activity from Kelly and Deb and board members and everyone up and down the line to figure out how to get this thing done with what was a very, very sound bid from DEW, and we were delighted to be able to work with them. but it was just we needed to find more money, or I shouldn't say we. I'm not the money guy in this part of the equation. So again, it's really been a study of evolution over almost 4 years of challenges, especially in the past year or two, and then persistence in being able to pull things together and get it to where it is today. So there were times that I sort of wondered if we'd ever be standing out here on the lawn, ready to turn a spade of sparkly sand and don our hard hats. But in fact, it's come, and it's due to a lot of work on a lot of people's behalf. So there you go.
Thank you so much, Deb. Come up and share your thoughts. Please, thank you.
So, my wife and I were at a Women's Foundation luncheon, I think 3 years or so ago. Deb was there as well. And she came up to me and said, "George, I've got a big ask." I went, "Yes, Deb." But here we are, finally, ready to break ground on this project. As Jay has said, it has been a long process, but one that I am very grateful that I hopefully can contribute in some small way to see this important project come to fruition. The work that Turning Points Network does for this community and the surrounding communities is so important, and it is long overdue that Deb and her staff have a facility that provides what they need and certainly deserve. I think it's evident in the contributions that some of the local businesses have made to this project. La Valley Building Supply donating or offering a 10% discount to this project for any building materials that are purchased through them. Casella Waste Management providing the roll-offs, trucking, and disposal of construction waste from the project. It's clear that the community understands how important the work that TPN does. I'm looking forward to collaborating with Jim Kimball and Jim Maloney, the project manager and the superintendent on the project. We have already done what we call cost engineering, where we look at ways, that might provide savings for the project. And we've already identified several places that we will be able to do that in the aim to bring this project in maybe even under budget. Jim, is that going to be possible? At any rate, I am really just so excited to see this new home for TPN getting underway, and just am looking forward to the day we turn the lights on. Thank you.
Thank you, George, very much. Mayor Gerard, would you like to say some words, please?
Thank you. Good afternoon. This is a very exciting time for the City of Claremont, along with Turning Points Network. This has been, as they've been saying, about 4 years in the works to try to get to this point. The amount of work and effort they put in working with our local police department and the hospital is just outstanding. We're very fortunate that they've been here since 1986. If anybody's had the opportunity to get into their office on School Street, they know they've made a lot out of very little confinements that they have over there. and they should be commended for being able to do as much as they have over the last 35 years, if my math is correct. In 2018, my understanding is that you were able to work with Mr. Pashala and get this building for your future. And as we all know, the last 4 years have been a very trying time, or 3 years, I guess, if we want to really use the term for COVID. I believe back in 2019 that you guys applied for the CDBG grant with Nancy at that point, and we've had a few extensions beyond that, just trying to make sure you come up with the financing, the funding that are needed, which at this point it looks like everything's going ahead at this point, I guess the best way to put it. This project is going to really be helpful. It's going to renovate the existing building and add the 2-story addition to it. You're going to have the elevator, the ADA compliant bathrooms, along with a large classroom, kitchen. Again, if anybody's been in the other building when they have classes, they don't have a large classroom at the moment, but they've made do. They also, while they're in the process, Mr. Barrett was able to work with them to come up with 1,900 extra square feet for future growth, which is something that they have proven over the years that they most likely will need at some point. This project is just another fine example of a reinvestment into our community. If you look down Broad Street, we've had some projects at the 243 Broad Street last year with solar projects. 221 Broad Street had a major renovation. This is a major road in and out of our community. So it's going to be a wonderful location for this project, and I thank you guys for all your effort. And again, I know that the board, your staff, and you, Ms. Marsden, have worked tirelessly to try to make this project come through. Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you. I also want to thank everyone for coming and celebrating this milestone for Turning Points Network. As you've heard, it's been a long time in coming, for sure. It's also the beginning of turning this house into our new home that will serve survivors for decades to come. George and Jay, I'm afraid you might have scared people for when they see me coming. They're going to run. But when you talked about my calling you and asking for help, I just want to share with you, Jay has donated his time. George is donating all of his time. Wayne McCutcheon, who was our surveyor, who got us to the point of being able to do our last applications, donated his time. Our attorney has donated his time. So a lot of folks have really helped get us to this place. So thank you. I also, and all of you who are here today actually have helped get us to this point for this project to happen and for this exciting day. George, thank you for the good weather. We appreciate that as well. Today you heard some of the many reasons why we are undertaking this significant project. We don't have enough space, we don't have enough offices, we have limited parking. It's a space that served us well for years, but it no longer accommodates our work, our staff, or all the survivors that we need to work with. Competition for sound here today. Much has changed since we moved into our space at School Street more than 35 years ago. At that time, we were 1.5 staff. We are now 12 staff, and we're fortunate to have 2 or 3 AmeriCorps members work with us every year. So our combined staff of 14 from 1.5 staff, and also those 14 staff, we work in 9 offices. It's pretty small, it's pretty tight. Also, at the time that we moved to School Street, we were working with about 200 survivors every year. Now we work with more than 750 survivors every year. So again, you can see the need for our new space. We've also added a robust prevention education program since we moved to to our house on Sullivan Street. On School Street. And so yes, we are definitely out of space. Overall, survivors don't find it easy to reach out for services. So when we can offer them privacy and confidentiality, security, and even anonymity with a larger space and everyone having their own office, we reduce a host of barriers to seeking our services, and we increase substantially the opportunities for survivors to reach out for services, to heal, and to be safe. Also, 35 years ago when we moved to School Street, it was a very different neighborhood. Some of you will remember it, some of you will not. Now it's much more active, a lot more populated, and it's also a place where people just like to hang out. And so survivors, when they access our building on School Street, they're very visible to the public. And so they don't have the privacy and the security that they will have when they come into this building. And this new office also assures that Turning Points Network will be able to serve this community for the next 20 years and beyond. In 20 years in this new space, we will work with more than 15,000 survivors, and we will continue our work in helping to build a safer community here in Claremont and also throughout Sullivan County. I just want to mention something that our architect is fond of saying, and that's that by Turning Points Network, he has a much longer story, we just kind of keep it short, but that by Turning Points Network investing in this property, and all of you who have invested in this property as well, it assures that this building that is Grace Broad Street, as you mentioned, on a busy street, a traffic route, for more than 100 years, and actually almost 200 years, will continue to do that. We'll continue to grace Broad Street and will enhance the beauty of our new neighborhood. So thank you all for making this project a reality. It is as much yours and this community's as it is TPN's. Thank you all.
And before we shovel, I just want to thank everybody for coming. We really, really appreciate it. And this is going to be such an exciting venture for TPN and all of us. So thank you again for coming. We really appreciate it.
All righty, so we do this. Where are we putting it? Everybody ready? Perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.